Hi, Shannon Waller here with Dan Sullivan, and welcome to this presentation. I am really excited because we're going to be talking about your much bigger entrepreneurial future. And one of the things, Dan, that I really appreciate about you is that how you can take so many entrepreneurial concerns and considerations and challenges and questions and obstacles and not necessarily address them at that level, but really come in with an elevated approach. And that's exactly what you're going to share today with our Who Not How conversation and entrepreneurial progression, which I guarantee people have not seen or heard before. And then finally, how Strategic Coach can actually assist you if this is the future that you're looking for. So I am, again, really excited. Dan, thank you so much for doing this with me.
First of all, it's a great pleasure to have listeners from all over, not just North America, but we have people from outside North America too who are listening today at a different hour of the day. So I'm just going to start in with a concept that really sums up what we've been able to accomplish on my own for 45 years and as a company for 30 years, and it's called Who Not How. What Who Not How is about is actually expanding your entrepreneurial freedom. So I've personally coached about 6,000 entrepreneurs since 1974. And, people who aren't entrepreneurs have all sorts of descriptions of why entrepreneurs do what they do. And a lot of them, it's, all focus is that they're money focused. It's strictly about money. And my own experience, certainly with the entrepreneurs that I deal with, and right now I'm in my 45th year of coaching, 30th in the actual Strategic Coach program, and I coach 500 entrepreneurs. So I have about 50 days a year when I'm coaching entrepreneurs, and I'm doing the same thing now that I did when the program started at a much higher level. I'm working with much higher level people, and our concepts have really been tested and proven useful over many years. So I'm going to take you through very quickly that everything we do, if you want to keep a phrase in mind as you go through the hour, the phrase is who, not how. And I can explain it very quickly what who, not how means. And then we'll show you how this is the doorway to hundreds of other concepts in Strategic Coach. It's who, not how. I'm just going to tell you about freedom. So the freedom that the entrepreneurs really want, and this is what I've discovered by entrepreneurs, is that there's two kinds of freedoms. There's freedom from stuff you don't like, and there's freedom to do much bigger, better projects in the future that would fascinate you and motivate you no matter how long you stayed with it. And I'm going to show you why entrepreneurs and Strategic Coach actually have careers that are 20, 25 years longer than entrepreneurs who are kind of on their own. And I'm going to show you why that happens. But the freedoms, there's 4 freedoms that keep getting better and better. And the first freedom is freedom of time. And that is that you cannot buy freedom in any part of your life unless you, first of all, free up time from how you're now obligated, how you're now completely scheduled and tested. So we show you how to free up enormous amounts of time. And what that allows you to do is to free up your relationship to money, both in the quantity, which gets much bigger quantity of money, but also in the quality of the money. And that would have to do that the way you make money makes you feel really great, that you're doing something really valuable. And who you're doing it for, you're making money from individuals that you truly want to be a hero to. And then the next one is relationship. This feeds directly from the time and money thing. You free up time, your quantity of money increases, your quality of money increases, and then you get to upgrade all your relationships in your business life, first of all, but also in your personal life. And, that the individuals who are going forward with you are individuals that you really love being with, you love spending time with them, and you enjoy working with them. It's very rewarding to work with these individuals. And the final thing is that your entire entrepreneurial life is more and more about not your purposes as an entrepreneur, but your purposes as a human being, that you become more and more as you go along, the person that you really like being. And one of my clients the other day said, when I first started the program, and I should say I have more than 40 entrepreneurs who've been in Strategic Coach for more than 25 years, so they've actually come to one of our quarterly workshops for 100 quarters or more. And he said, when I first started Coach, my biggest problem was that I was kind of my own enemy. He said I was just the worst critic that I had in terms of I was pointing out all my weaknesses and all my failures and my lack of ability to really accomplish, even though other people outside thought I was really very successful. I didn't see that on the inside. And he's been more than 25 years with Coach. He said, I would have to say that I'm one of my best friends now. He says, I really like the person that I'm walking around inside of. And you got to reflect on that just a second, because it's kind of like if you don't really need enemies in this life if you're walking around inside of one. And I've seen people who just are spectacularly talented, but they never give themselves any credit. They never feel any kind of reward for their accomplishments. So I'm going to show you that a lot of it has to do, and a lot of it is actually solved by this concept that we have of who, not how. So this is you, and without knowing you, I know there's something on your mind, and that is out in front of you, somewhere in your future, not too far distant off, you have a goal, a bigger and better goal, and it's quantitative. It can be measured in terms of numbers, and it's better. It can be measured in terms of quality. It's kind of you operating at a higher level. You're enjoying yourself a lot more, and the reason why you're enjoying yourself is the actual measurements, the achievements that are measurable achievements, and not only that, but the results you're getting are measurable quantitatively, revenues and profits and other measurements that are really crucial to you. Now, we all have this, and I would say from my own experience as an entrepreneur, which is 45 years, and also probably 60,000 hours of conversations I've had with entrepreneurs, this is a wonderful capability you have to see vividly in the future, where you engage intellectually with a big goal, but also you commit emotionally to actually taking the steps and actually going through changes, oftentimes personal changes that you have to go through, organizational changes, lots of technology changes you have to go through to get there. And that's a really great thing. And as a matter of fact, you can't stop doing it because it's kind of factory equipment. That's why you're an entrepreneur. But what happens is that you're suddenly confronted with a problem. And that is, how do I do this? Okay. And I should introduce Shannon here, because Shannon has been a partner with Babs and me for 28 years this year, 28 years. And quite on her own, out of her own initiative, she said, there's a program that we need in Strategic Coach where all of their key team members can come and learn exactly what the entrepreneurs are learning about who, not how, except they're the who's who do the hows. And so this is the trick that Shannon pulled off, and she created a complete mirror program called the Team Program, and that's both for team leaders and also for other specialists. And that, can you talk just a little bit about what this has done? We got to a certain point where we created a lot of other concepts, and then we created who, not how, and all of a sudden everything clicked into place.
Who, not how is such an incredible context for describing what we've been doing for so long. And Dan, I just want to go back to the 4 freedoms and how you talked about those, because they sum up everything that people have questions about constantly about their entrepreneurial career. But simplifying it down to these 4 freedoms and getting trapped into the how. And the team, your entrepreneurial team, it doesn't matter if it's in-house or outsourced or what have you, is actually a massive part of that solution, as long as they understand how you think, as long as they have an entrepreneurial attitude, as long as they're not expecting you to be a manager, because frankly, that's just another how you would probably rather avoid doing. So one of my passions, as you know, Dan, is to really work with entrepreneurial team members to help get entrepreneurs and their teams on the same page, so that this model that you're showing can just expand and grow, and the bigger and better gets bigger and better. And that's one of my passions. It's been fabulous to collaborate with both our clients and you, Dan, on making this happen.
So I've gone through a lot of pain and suffering and defeat and setback when I first started being an entrepreneur because I didn't understand this who, not how concept. And I would obligate myself to producing results for customers and clients in areas that I didn't really have strengths. And this just stressed me out, first of all, because I didn't have a high degree of confidence. But the other thing about it was that it took so much longer for me to do things that I'm not good at. And now, 45 years later, as an entrepreneur, I just do three things. I do what I'm doing now because I like marketing. I like, the whole point of talking to new people who have not heard about Strategic Coach before. And then I coach. So I have a really full coaching schedule. And the other thing is I'm really good at coming up with new ways of thinking. And I've really been doing this all my life. And I just have this thing to actually see other people's experiences and kind of create pictures that simplifies things for them. And they're able to say, yeah, there's a lot of hows. So for you who are listening out there right now, you've got bigger and better. I mean, just take a second to reflect on some bigger and betters that you would like to get to, but you're being stopped because you don't really have the how ability to actually get there. And there's a simple test for that. If you did have the how ability, you would already be there. You would already be at the bigger and better. So what our whole Strategic Coach program is about is what I'm going to show you next. And that is you consider this stopping, which a lot of people call procrastination, in a positive light instead of a negative light. So it's procrastination. And my take on it is procrastination is wisdom. It's an inner wisdom that's based on your entire life up until now, that what your goals are telling you needs to be done, from your past history that you're no good at doing that. And instead of looking at how, you look for who. And you look for a who can do that how. And the nature of the who is they find this easy to do.
Right.
But they need you to tell them what needs to be done and why it's so important. So your role as an entrepreneur is to really give definition to the future, to actually say, and definition means put a deadline on it. The other thing is put measurements on it. And I find generally entrepreneurs, as they get better at who, not how, they don't go too far into the future. Like 90 days is really good. And I'll talk a little bit about 90 days. And so you're looking for something that's a jump in quality and quantity that would be obviously really good for you as an entrepreneur, but it's also good for the company. It's good for other people. It's good for clients. And the who's then do the how. Okay. So if you think about this, this is a master skill. If you're just starting now as an entrepreneur and you said, if there was one thing I could learn, I wish I'd learned this at 6 years old, but let's say at the beginning of your entrepreneurial career, that instead of me having to do lots and lots of hows and being better and better at hows, I am really great at certain hows. Coaching, I'm really good at. Coming up with new ideas, I'm really good at that. And marketing, I've been successful, so I must be good at it. But outside of that, I'm no good at running a company. I'm no good at managing people. I'm no good at detail work. Once I've started a project, I'm not really very good at finishing a project. And I have to tell you, I'm not the only character on the planet who would say what I just said. Most entrepreneurs I know are great with visualizing the future. They're really, really great at getting things started. They can make a decision. They're comfortable with risking. They've got a lot of courage, and they do that. But they're not good at being the who does the hows to get to the goals. So this is the entire essence, the center of Strategic Coach. And I'm going to show you, you can create 100 different dimensions from this. But I'm just going to go back and show you, when you look at your entire career ahead of you, why it's so crucial to master this skill right now. And it has to do with the fact that if you focus on how and put some years in your mind, so how old are you now? And just right off the bat, how many more years would you think about being an entrepreneur? Let's say it's 25 years. If it's only going to be about doing more of the how that you're doing right now, two things are going to be true about it. It's going to be more and more irritating and just okay for you to do that. And talk about this because not only do we coach entrepreneurial teams, but our entire company runs on this basis. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, you're talking about irritating and okay. I'm laughing because certainly in terms of comments and questions and everything from people, they're irritated or it's merely okay, it's barely good enough. And all the reasons why people became an entrepreneur for those kind of intangible freedoms, they're not experiencing at all. In fact, they often feel really, really trapped by these activities like, now I have to do everything instead of just a few things that I was hoping to be freed up to do. So this whole premise of just being really, really astute at setting the vision and figuring out the who's to free yourself up from the hows is so simple but so profound.
Yeah.
Again, I'm laughing because think about the last time you were irritated, probably was earlier this morning or earlier today, or team members. Team members have exactly the same experience.
Yeah.
There's certain things that they are brilliant at, but if they're trapped doing hows that do not fit into their strengths and talents or capabilities, they feel the same way. So this is actually a freedom prescription for everybody.
Yeah. And one of the things, you cannot feel rewarded doing a how that you're not good at. You can't really contribute that much to someone else if you're doing a how that you really don't like doing and you're not good at. But the other thing is you can't be a hero to other people by being a how that you don't like. One of the things is you just can't stick with it. And the other thing is you have no interest in being better at it. So this is the first one. And what we know is that this leads to fatigue. You get very fatigued from doing activities that are hows. I'll just use our language here. It's hows. And then I'm going to switch up and show you the opposite. And I'm just going to switch over.
Dan, there's a long-term impact of fatigue. And that is that some people who've been in their business just cannot wait to get out of it. And that's something that we see too. And this model actually shows an entirely different, as you said earlier, much longer-term future.
Well, and I see fatigue with teams. So where are we now, with our team? We have about 140 team members in Coach right now. So this is our 30th year. And even before we recognized this model, we were growing by this model. Where it worked, we were growing by this model. And we just kept adding who's who would do hows. That freed me up, that freed Babs up, and then we freed up Shannon. So we only hire new people for two reasons. One, to free up Dan and Babs. And the other thing is to free up the people who are freeing up Babs and Dan. And there's the only two reasons why you would ever hire someone. And you're only looking for someone who the how that they're bringing into the company, one is that they're really great at it, but they also love doing it.
Yes.
They love doing it.
It's so important to include that passion, that desire, that wanting to be a hero when you're looking to hire someone. Otherwise, they should go work for a corporate. And I think when you know what you're passionate about, you want to work with other people who are passionate. So subtracting that or not taking it into account just makes no sense. You're going to get your bigger and better future so much faster if you include not only talent, but passion.
So let's switch up there. Okay, so we've demoralized ourselves a little bit for a few minutes here. So let's go up to the next one, which is who's who do the how. And one of the things is, if you look at your future, I tested you on if your whole future, let's say next 25 years, is just going to be about hows, then, at a certain point, you're thinking retirement. At a certain point, you're thinking about having other businesses. And you're not really getting a lot of satisfaction out of your life. And people outside of you don't see that. They see, he's so good at this, he's so successful. He's kind of like a role model, a success model, but you're not seeing it. You're not feeling it because the hows that you're obligating yourself to do for the rest of your life.
And Dan, that's such a good point because, and I think this is where entrepreneurs feel a little trapped sometimes, is because externally to everyone else, they look a certain way. Oh my gosh, she's so successful. Why would she be bored? Why would she want something different? And there's judgment about that. But internally that if it's not fascinating and motivating, at some point you're going to want to jump ship.
And those are the exact words that I use, that if you can always be creating bigger and better goals, stating the what and the why, and then immediately attract other people who are the who's, who do the hows, your whole life is going to be fascinating and motivating because you're not being bogged down in any activity that you actually love. And, you're feeling enormous more freedom of time, obviously freedom of money, relationships. The bigger and better projects are introducing you and engaging you with higher quality individuals, more talented individuals, more successful individuals, and positive, very, very positive individuals. So this path leads to energy. So fatigue, energy. You have your choice about how you want to lead your future. I mean, right now, I think that almost anyone who's listening to our webinar here could jot down 5 or 6 things that just always irritate you and annoy you. And you could put a time on it. Maybe it's at 300 or 400 hours in the course of the next 12 months. What if tomorrow you had a who you didn't even really have to lay it out. You just had to give them what the measurements were for the next year. And immediately you're not only freed up from the time, and I'd like you to comment on this, Shannon, you're not only freed up from the time of doing these activities you don't like, but your brain is freed up from that awful burden that, not only do I have to do it for 300 hours over the next year, in some cases it could be 1,000 hours, but that's true for every year for the rest of my life. I'm freed up forever.
I actually had this exact conversation with an entrepreneur the other day, and he's like, I just need the team to understand my brain's going to focus on something. So if I'm focusing on solving this how problem that is annoying and frustrating for me, it means my brain's not working on a much bigger, much more strategic, bigger future. So he said, I just need to get that stuff out of my head. And he was talking about hiring an assistant. And he said, I just need that stuff to permanently go away so that he can get there. But it was such a good point that your brain's going to work on something. Is it the best use of it?
Yeah.
So when he finds the right who to take that up, it will just liberate so much. And the second point about this for me is when you're doing something you're not good at, maybe it's an hour, can take up 50% of your brain.
Well, not only that, but it's not just the hour that you're doing it, it's your dread that you're experiencing. Oh, tomorrow I have to do that. And now you dread. And I always say, if it was just the hour, maybe it would be better. It isn't. It's the anticipation of the hour. It's the knowledge that I have to do this again, you know.
It subtracts your creativity for a much bigger picture.
Yeah, it's a bummer. That's what it is. It's a bummer.
It is.
So anyway, I'm just going to finish off this diagram, but I just want to tell you a story. I had someone who joined our strategic coach program with me. So I was the coach. We have 15 other coaches who coach strategic coach workshops. I had developed this diagram. So I come in and we have everybody introduce themselves in the second hour. But first we give them a little brain exercise like calisthenics. And I showed them this. And I went through as far as we are right now. And the program that I coach is $25,000 a year. So they have paid $25,000. It's 4 days with me. And then there's 2 days with my team. And the interesting thing about it, I got to this point in the diagram and he said, okay, I got my $25,000 for the next 25 years. He said, I totally got it. He says, I just totally understand what I have to do now. So at the end of the workshop, I said, are you really not going to come back? And he said, oh, no, I'm going to come back. He says, I know exactly 4 or 5 decisions I can make in the next 90 days.
And just a little point on that, the success stories we've heard from clients that have been in the coach program for a long time or even a short time, when they actually implement this, they save thousands and thousands of hours, which they then can do some very fun things with. And their futures get that much bigger. Like, it's kind of incredible just what an exponential driver this is for entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah. And it's not just in their business life. It's in their personal life, too. You know, I mean, this is human. This isn't just entrepreneurs. So this is the basic framework of strategic coach. And we always go back to the simplicity of this model before we explore a new dimension. But I want to show you what an entrepreneurial career looks like, choosing the fatigue path or choosing the energetic path. So let's say it's the fatigue path, okay, and let's talk about your life. Maybe your entrepreneurial career is 50 years or longer. You know, I'm 75, I'm almost 75, and I'm just looking ahead at my next 25 years right now, which takes me to 100. I was born in 1944, so it'll be 2044 when I'm 100, and my next 25 years is just this diagram.
I love that.
bigger and better goals, finding who do the how, and me being freed up for higher levels of creativity and productivity. So it's cool. But I just show you the bad way to do the rest of your entrepreneurial career. And it looks like this is that you're really good at a how, and you start in your 20s or whatever age you are, and you can see the curve that maybe you're kind of excited in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, but right around 40, you start noticing you're losing your energy, things are getting repetitious. You're noticing that every January 1st, the upcoming year is not as exciting as you can remember past years being. And then you start thinking, I just want to free myself up from my company. I want to free myself. And I'll delegate to the point where I don't have to work at all. Mm-hmm. And that may be your game plan. I would say that if that's your game plan, Strategic Coach isn't for you, because we're going to show you that it's your future doing who, not how, is actually going to look like this. Okay, so it's my 45th year, and I've never been operating better. My sense of enthusiasm about the work that I'm doing and the opportunities, Shannon. I mean, the opportunities right now are just really quite extraordinary because the world is getting very complex and very complicated right now because of the technological revolution. And almost any how that you were really good at 10 years ago is probably going to be taken away from you by artificial intelligence and by apps and programs and everything like that. So not only is the work not as satisfying, it may not be even rewarding, because if your career has been based on doing a certain how, probably there's a computer programmer out there who's figuring out how that can be done 10 times faster and 10 times cheaper without you being involved. So can you talk about that? Because you've seen it. I mean, we've seen the real enormous acceleration of technology since we've been working together 28 years.
We certainly have. And while I started the day, fax machines was how I communicated at the beginning. It was before email. It's kind of spectacular. And some of our clients are the ones that are creating that kind of, I'm going to say disruption / transformation, whether being tax returns being processed overseas or writing computer programs that analyze legal documents and can do it with a much higher rate of accuracy in 1/100th of the time. And what side of the curve do you want to be on? Do you want to be underneath that wave, or do you want to be on top riding it? And you also want to focus on what is unique, what is not replaceable by technology or AI. How do you focus that? And as the world gets more complicated, there's also a much greater need for simple, elegant, human solutions to certain things, and to be really strategic about what part stays human and which parts gets delegated to technology. But if you don't have this mindset of who, not how, or you don't have that bigger future goal, then I think it's kind of depressing, actually.
Yeah, and all the people that I admire most in Strategic Coach, who are clients and customers, but also the people outside who are really famous, all the ones who seem to have lasted for 20, 25 years and seem just totally excited about what they're doing, they're all following the who path, not the how path. And what happens is that, excitement and energy attract excitement and energy, and fatigue and irritating attract fatigue and irritating. So if you take a how approach to your future, more and more you're going to be surrounded by people who are fatigued, irritated, how people. And if you choose energy and you choose being fascinated and motivated, guess who you're going to hang out with?
Dan, you just made me think of some industry conferences that I have been to in the past, where a lot of it is this sort of, I want to say, feeling at the effect of what's going on around them, not having a creative solution, looking for the exit strategy, just totally in that how world, and it's unhappy with no creative solutions. And if that's what you're hearing all the time, you probably think, oh, well, then that's going to be me too.
Yeah.
But there's an alternative.
Yeah. So I've taken quite a while for this because I want you to know that Strategic Coach is always this simple, okay? But it's got a lot of dimensions to it, because freedom of time has a lot of dimensions to it. Freedom of money has a lot of dimensions. relationship has a lot of dimensions, and purpose has a lot of dimensions. But we always go through the same doorway with Strategic Coach. You come in through Who, Not How, and it becomes a language, and people compare their Who, Not How progress every quarter when they come. I'm going to go through this really quickly, and how we organize Strategic Coach is in a program that has different levels to it, okay? What I'm going to show you is everybody in Strategic Coach is an entrepreneur. You have to own your own business, okay? Last time I counted, it was about 70 different industries in probably 25 countries. There are listeners right now who are listening from another country. And I've said we're in the UK and the United Kingdom, we're in Canada and the United States. And we have 8 cities, 4 main cities where you can actually attend Coach. So I'm going to just very quickly give them what the landscape looks like ahead when we do entrepreneurs. So we have 3 levels, and the 3 levels are called Signature, 10 Times Ambition, and Game Changer. And in the Signature program is about Who, Not How, and the first areas that you're going to change your game are your personal game, how you handle time, how you focus your activities, who are the best relationships right now that, first of all, you can create teamwork around you. And then of all the clients you have, which of your clients and customers represent the future and which clients and customers represent the past. And the more they are customers and clients about the past, the more they want your how. The more they're clients and customers of the future, the more they want you and your unique ability. And they also want to know that it's just not you and your company, that you have a team that's constantly growing, because they have a team and they want you to have a team. So they check you out as a team. Now, each of the programs has 12 main concepts. I'll give you an example, one of the concepts, and a lot of people know Strategic Coach because of this, and it's the time system. So Shannon, you've been coaching this for more than 20 years, so talk about the time system.
Very quickly. So the entrepreneurial time system is something you created, Dan, which is phenomenal. It's a way of looking at time, not in terms, have you ever had a day planner? It's not that way. It's really looking at your entire year and dividing it into 3 different types of days. So the first type of a day that we actually have you kind of take off the board, if you want to think about it that way, is a free day. So a free day by definition is 24 hours, midnight to midnight, during which you do absolutely no work. Which when I say that, some of you probably think, okay, just pulled out the IV. I'm feeling a little challenged by that. But what happens when you take some days off the board, it means you have to become much more focused. So the 2 different types of work days are a focus day, which is really 80% of your average working day spent on your top 3 money-making or results-producing activities. And then there's your buffer days, which are not when you're working on your client's business, but when you're working on your own. It's when you're cleaning up messes, delegating the stuff, not creating more messes. Really, the most fun use of a buffer day is learning new capabilities, which is what Strategic Coach is for a lot of our clients. It's a fabulous buffer day. But this whole time system allows you to not have to be on all the time, to really have that freedom of time that we were talking about earlier. So that's just one in the first workshop, really, in Signature. And then, of course, it's a lifetime practice to do it, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yes. And just to give you some sense of who is in the Signature level, you have to be making at least $200,000 to actually qualify for Strategic Coach, period.
And that's personal income.
That's personal income, so $200,000, but not exceeding $500,000.
And then we also do have a 500 level and above, and the price is actually
the same.
Yeah. Because one of the things that we've learned is that content may not be different, but the conversation is.
Yes.
So being with people who have reached a similar level of both success and challenge, I think is really, really important, and it works brilliantly. And this is actually how all of our original clients went 10 times.
Yes.
So there's an incredible amount of richness and quality in Signature program.
Yes. And I'm going to just show you in a couple of minutes exactly what the 3 main things you're going to get out of each level of the program. But I just very quickly, I'm going to take you to the next level, and this is called the 10 Times Ambition program. So at the Signature level, you've changed your game personally and with teamwork. Now you can really focus on your company as it operates in the world, and especially how your marketing is. So you change your whole framework. And again, we have 12 main concepts. These concepts, by the way, are chosen out of hundreds of concepts we have because they directly relate to who, not how. You can get to each of these concepts by going through who, not how. So the skill of who, not how, by the time you reach the extent of the 10 times ambition program, you got 24 different gears for how you can know it. And it relates, as I said, to the freedom of time, money, relationship, and purpose. And then the game at the really highest is called the game changer itself. And this is where you're so good with your teamwork, you're so good with your company, and you've really, really transformed your market that now your influence is starting to change the industry that you're in. We've seen dozens and dozens of cases where the clients from Strategic Coach who are operating type who, not how, just stick out because they don't look hassled. They're not on their phones all the time. They've got lots of free time. They seem to be present when they're actually with you. And the reason is because things are handled. The hows in their life are handled. 99% of why people use their cell phones are because of how issues that they're embroiled in. It's not about opportunity issues. I mean, maybe 1 or 2%, but usually they have massive times to develop their opportunities. And then we're seeing it going global. So I just had a conference call a couple hours ago where I was putting together 2 of our game-changing clients who are both going global. Each of them has a different capability, and we're just putting their 2 capabilities together.
Dan, I just really love that, we've created hundreds of concepts. You created hundreds of concepts over the years. But they're really strategically organized in such a way to keep helping people build their personal, teamwork, company, market, industry, and global freedom in terms of who, not how. It's an elegant structure.
Yeah, it's cool. So I'm just going to show you in the signature level 3 things. One is in the signature level, you will free up 500 hours of your time. Okay. So the amount of time that you spend in the signature level is strictly up to you. I have people who are in the Game Changer program who went through in a year, and they went through the 10 times program in a year, and the 3rd year they were in the Game Changer. Everybody's got their own plan, they've got their own schedule, everybody's got their own agenda, but you're always learning to increase your ability with who, not how. You'll probably double your income, your personal income, very easily. And then the next one is you simplify everything that you do in your work down to 3 energizing capabilities.
If you've ever heard, if some of your friends have talked to you about Strategic Coach, you've probably heard of our term unique ability. So we have an amazing, elegant, fascinating process to help you discover your unique ability. And they are lifetime. They go with you wherever you are. And it's what's most fulfilling to you. It's also how you create the most value in the world. So unique ability is a big part of this process. It's really how you're the who for other people, but very powerful and a big part of signature.
Yes. And finally, just what you end up with as you change your personal game and your teamwork game, you have a self-managing company. And Shannon's reference to our time system, you either are good at taking free time or you're not good at taking free time right now, depending whether your company can manage itself when you're away. And self-managing company means that all the present cash flow can be almost guaranteed without your presence. You're being elevated, you're being freed up to actually operate at a much higher level in terms of the type of opportunities, the type of money making that you're doing. And self-managing company, I noticed when I first came up with the term, I would write it on a whiteboard. And I said, you may not know exactly what I'm talking about here, but how many of you want these? Now the hands, and I'm sure all of you listening, you say, I'm not quite sure what that self-managing company is, but I tell you, I really want one of them, And I think it's the natural instinct of entrepreneurs to want to be freed up for a higher level, work, their own work, that it's energizing. The money making that they're doing is the best they've ever done, and they're doing it with people who are the most energizing, motivating, fascinating people to work with.
100%. And this is where teamwork is so critical, because without teamwork, you really can't have a self-managing company.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to tell you about the 10 times ambition level. And now what we do is we free up another 1,000 hours. So you free up 500 at the signature level, and now we free up another 1,000 here. And quite frankly, if you think about it, that if you took 1,500 hours that you're doing right now and got freed up from them, and you are devoting them to something different, which could also be outside. It could be exercise, it could be your children, it could be community activities. But one of the things I noticed that if you free up 500, free up 1,000, your income just went up by 10 times.
It sounds like an odd concept. How can we breaking less and making more? But that's exactly what happens because you're not trapped in those how activities that you can't wait to avoid anyway. So it's a paradoxical shift, but it works.
Well, every time, let's say you take 100 hours and you free them up from irritating and okay, and free them up to do fascinating and motivating, there's a huge multiplier there.
Yes.
There's a huge multiplier. And you say, well, I want more where that came from. So you keep going back and freeing yourself up. So when we say free here, we're not saying that, that it's free time. No, this is work time where you're freed up just to be the person who says bigger and better and then assembles who do the house. The next thing is you start really, really getting great at two exponentials. And in our world, there's two great exponentials. One of them is obviously technology, but human teamwork is the exponential that actually created technology. And technology, really great exponential technology, gets directed at the best kind of teamwork because you can really maximize the use of it. So what we're seeing there is a huge thing. But the goal when you get into the 10 times the ambition program is wherever you start, your goal is to go 10 times, and we measure that in terms of company revenues. And the other thing is now your company becomes a self-multiplying company. So the first level, Signature, is self-managing, which means you're guaranteeing the cash flow that's already existing. But now the company, when you are not there and you're operating on new projects, the company is actually multiplying itself.
It's growing, and you don't have to be the only person who's helping that happen.
Yeah, and again, the emphasis is on the company growth and the expansion of your market. And finally, the Game Changer program. And you have to do at least a year in the 10 times program before you can go to the Game Changer. Again, you free up another 1,000 hours. So you're not really recognizable by the time you get that. There's only trace amounts of who you were when you first started. I mean, you're just a different person. You're a transformed, elevated being by the time you get here. And now your net worth has gone by about 10 times. And we're just using big averages of thousands of individuals. The other thing is you start doing 100 times collaboration with other companies out in the marketplace where you collaborate with them, where you take your unique capability as a company and you take their unique capability as an organization, because we have collaborations between entrepreneurs who maybe have 100 team members and they're collaborating with corporations who have 50,000 people. But they're collaborating with someone in that corporation who wants entrepreneurial capabilities that cannot be created in a corporation. So this is very, very exciting. And, I'm the coach here, and, you're sitting there, he's 75, and he's shooting for 100. What's keeping him excited? This diagram I'm showing you is what keeps me excited. The two capabilities I helped put together this morning, I just came away from that. I was so jazzed by just introducing two people who could put their capabilities together in a totally unique way.
Dan, in Game Changer, one of the things that's been so incredible is how you talk about people can be what we call rugged individuals. And it's a mindset shift to be able to go into unique teamwork. This is actually where most people's companies are rugged individual companies. And all of a sudden, unique teamwork becomes collaboration, and you start partnering up in ways that in no way negatively impacts who you are already. But, 10 times 10 equals 100. It's really powerful to see that. So this ability to collaborate, not just with other people, but with companies is a profound shift. And I've said this before to you, Dan, but it's the highest level of entrepreneurism I have ever seen.
Yes.
It's amazing, and that's in 28 years.
Yeah, and the reason why this one slide that we're showing you here, the other thing is all these companies who are in the Game Changer immediately scale nationally, and now a lot of them, depending upon the industry they're in, they're scaling globally. And the reason I'm showing this slide before I talk about who you are and what you really want right where you are right now is that if this slide doesn't interest you, Strategic Coach is not the place for you. Okay. Because I can go out to a room of 1,000 people and actually talk about Strategic Coach, and I show this slide, and right away I have 25, 30 people come up and say, I'm nowhere near this. I'm just a sea creature that came out of the ocean, and I'm just getting used to breathing as an entrepreneur, and my back legs haven't formed yet. But I have to tell you, this is where I want to be in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. This really attracts. And the reason is, Shannon, we're at a period of history for even a small company, maybe of 10 or 15 people. This is possible to go global now because of the technology. But you can't do it without who, not how.
No. And you can't get there without having a self-managing company or a self-multiplying company either.
Yeah. So I've been coaching for 45 years, and we've developed a company that who we're looking for and who we want to join the Strategic Coach is, first of all, talented, successful entrepreneur wants 10 times greater freedom to grow. Okay, and if 10 times greater freedom to grow as an entrepreneur is your thing, then Strategic Coach is for you. Number two, you have a game-changing mindset. So when I talk about changing your game, you say, I'm always changing my game. You have game-changing innovations. I'm always coming up with new strategies, new processes, new techniques, new innovations. And not only that, I have the ambition to go much, much bigger.
I love it. And Dan, as you're talking, I'm just like, okay, well, and this person, this is who we want in the program. It's also, we want these people to be looking for us because they want a community where they're hanging out with people like this.
Yeah. I mean, my workshops are quite large. And I want everybody who comes into my workshop to know that everybody else in the workshop is going to be like this. Okay. And then the third one is you would find it really enjoyable. You would find it exciting to make a 25-year commitment to growing through the 6 levels of who, not how capability. Game changing your teamwork, how you're operating personally, your teamwork, your company, your marketing, and then really, really transforming very crucial parts of your industry. I've seen people create entirely new industries, and the whole notion of going global really appeals to you. And if you set aside the next 25 years commitment to doing that, that would feel tremendous. That would feel really great.
I like how you talk about it too, Dan. It's like, well, what else are we going to be doing anyway?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is what you want. So I'm checking, see who you are now. And the first thing is what you want is to make your entrepreneurial company increasingly self-managing and self-multiplying. Number 2, free yourself from present complexity to focus on 10 times growth improvements for you. And number 3, continually increase your freedom of time, money, relationship, and purpose. So the whole point is you can see that it's got to be right. It's got to be on the beam. We've spent 30 years really mastering this growth cycle and it wouldn't be good for us and wouldn't be good for you if this isn't what you want. Because if you want this, I have to tell you, we can supply you with 25 years of structure and process to do that. And finally, what we do is we'll actually extend your confident entrepreneurial career by 25 years with a constant growth of 10 times capability.
Dan, can you talk about the client who joined expecting to retire in 3 years and how that changed?
Well, he was one of the parties on my Zoom call. Yeah. And he was a very large engineering company in the U.S., 62 years old. And he said, I'm going to pack it in when I'm 65. And I've heard that Coach really will allow me to download everything I have to do to other people. We put him through the first workshop, and he came back 9 days later. He said, I've changed my mind on that. And he said, I'm 62. He says, I'm going to push it out to 87 now. And he said, we're the number 12 engineering company in our area in the United States. And within 10 years, we're going to be number 1. And as of 5 years down the road, he's number 1. He's number 1, and he's going global now with it. And he said, I've let all the ambitious youngsters in my company know that they're going to have to wait another 20 years, although I'll help them create their own companies within our companies. And on average, I would say, from my experience, on average, people are planning to extend their career if they thought 60 was the endpoint to 80s. And you can do that today. There's such great fitness and health. In our method, you wouldn't want to stop. Why do people keep working for so long? Because it would be painful to stop. Number 2, simplify your activity to 3 unique ability activities focused on 10 times growth. So you got to be willing to go real simple. So you can only multiply if you go simple. The big problem why you can't multiply right now is all the complexity of hows that you have in your life. If you simplify just down to the 3 things that you do great, and you're constantly laying out bigger and better goals for your entire company, there's no more how that gets added to your life for the next 25 years. It's just you being better at what you're already great at. And finally, number 3, 36 game-changing thinking tools transform every area of your personal freedom, not only in your business life, but your personal life. And Jen?
Dan, I really love this summary. We just talked about who you are, what you want, and what we do. And as promised, if you want to take action, if this is really resonating with you, if you're like, okay, this is where my entrepreneurial future is going and how can I get started, this is the information I want to share with you right now. So if you're interested in joining the Strategic Coach program, which is all about how you can implement who, not how in your entrepreneurial career at whatever level you're ready for, all of them start with 4 one-day workshops held every 90 days in Toronto, Chicago, LA, or the UK. And there's something really powerful about this quarterly structure where you have your much bigger, longer-term framework, but you really only need to focus on what's going to happen in the next 90 days. And then you come back to your next workshop and you think to yourself, okay, what worked? What didn't work? What are my new goals? What am I going to do differently? And then you have your plan of action. And you can do that with all of our phenomenal coaches. Now, there's something different about our coaches, and that is that they are not trainers. They are successful entrepreneurs who are clients first, coaches second. Every single one of them has very, very successfully implemented the entire Strategic Coach program. And they also have a passion. Well, first of all, they have self-managing companies because otherwise they wouldn't have the time freed up to be able to do this. But they have a passion for helping other entrepreneurs develop their own self-managing and self-multiplying companies too. They are gifted communicators. They have their own stories. They have their own examples of how they implemented the tools and concepts and developed their own teams. So we have 15 brilliant associate coaches, all of whom have a very unique and yet consistent approach to the program. Now, in the program, what you can expect, not unlike Who Not How, is hundreds of multiplier concepts, tools, and mindsets. And one of the things that I love about Coach is there's absolutely no theory. It's all practice. Every single tool, Dan, that you've created has really come out of your own entrepreneurial experience and what was working and what didn't, and hearing all of the obstacles and challenges I talked about at the very beginning and how to transform those to help people really have a lot of fun while they're being incredibly successful. So the number of thinking tools that we have is exponential. The number of concepts really help you figure out how to think about things is there's simply a multitude. One of the things I love hearing from our clients a lot is they'll be like, okay, I didn't know exactly what this workshop was going to be about, but somehow you knew exactly what I needed. We hear that all the time. And so what's really fantastic is that you get to put your brain on paper, and by the time you're done the thinking exercise, you have a brand new insight into your own experience and what to do next. One of the most important things about being an entrepreneur is that actually you have a community around you, an entrepreneurial peer group. You saw our description of who we are and who you are and what we're up to. And if you want to be surrounded by other growth-oriented, ambitious, successful, open, curious entrepreneurs, I frankly cannot recommend a better one. Everyone is intelligent, everyone is committed, and they're willing to share not only their successes, but also their challenges, sometimes their failures. And I love nothing more than coming into my workshop and people say, hey, Shannon, did you fulfill that commitment that you made? I call it positive peer pressure. And I love that my colleagues, my peers, are very interested to see how I've done. I have to tell you, when you know someone's going to ask you whether or not you did something, the people you respect, you do it. And so this quarterly process of meeting up with just a very curated and wonderful, intelligent, as I mentioned, a group of people is a profound experience. So that's all about the actual workshops. Now, you know, as I do, that between the 90-day sessions, a lot can happen. If you've ever been to any boot camps or motivational anythings, then you'll know that 2, 3, 4 days you leave completely on a high and you're super excited, and then 3 weeks later you can barely remember what happened. So we have a lot of support that we provide you in between the sessions. First of all, you have a dedicated program advisor. This is your coach in between the sessions. Every single one of our program advisors is an expert in the program, and they have worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients and know exactly how to apply it with you. And they will help you discern which thinking tool will be most useful for you right now. What's your positive focus? How are you making progress? What's the next challenge to overcome? And having that person with whom you can connect just means you're not alone. You've got a personal contact with coach in between the sessions, which makes a big difference. One of the other things that we offer is what's called a weekly planning call, and I usually host this if I'm available. And the weekly planning call is phenomenal because no matter what your 25-year goals are, even your 90-day goals, it boils down to what are you going to make happen this week. So we have a phenomenal half-hour, highly energetic, interactive phone call that we do every Monday. Highly recommend that you jump on that once you join the program. In addition to that, we also do monthly booster calls, and the monthly booster calls is a deep dive into some of our concepts. For example, our entrepreneurial time system we mentioned, into unique ability, into some of the other concepts of strategic coach, so you can really absorb and learn a lot, and your team can too, so therefore your entire company. We also have a customized client website, and I love this. I used it today to actually go and do some planning. I do the online tools. We've got a ton of downloads. We have articles. We've got blogs. We've got videos. We've got things that are only available to the Strategic Coach community in the program. So if you're looking for inspiration, for example, at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're here for you. And lastly, we also have specialized programs for your team, for your family. We have Unique Edge for 18 to 24-year-olds. We've got our Couples Connection Workshop for your significant other. We have programs for your teams, which I'm very passionate about, as Dan well knows. And so we don't leave you alone. We know that you're part of that bigger community, and we want to be able to support them as well. Now, one of the things about Coach is that, as we've been talking about, it's for people who've got to a certain level of entrepreneurial success. So I want to share with you what our 2 qualifying incomes are. So they are the $200,000 level. So if you're making a minimum of $200,000 to $500,000 level, we have phenomenal, again, coaches and workshops and locations for you. And then we also have a qualifying level of $500,000 plus. What's interesting is that the Strategic Coach program is actually the same for both levels. What's different is the participants and the conversation. And so the price is actually the same too. So we simply want you to be able to make sure that you're in a room that are experiencing the similar excitement and challenges and opportunities that you are. It makes a huge difference to go along this entrepreneurial path, this entrepreneurial journey with people who are kind of a little bit like you, maybe a little bit further ahead in some areas, a little bit further behind in others, but having those people with whom to share your experiences, this makes a ton of sense. Now, whichever level you're at, getting started is really, really easy. So go to strategiccoach.com. That's where you can check out the coaches, the dates, locations, and our really simple and fast application form. I once made the mistake of handing someone a piece of paper, and she looked at it strangely, and then I pulled up my tablet and pulled up the application form, and she had it filled out in 5 minutes. So if this is how you like to do things, I can actually testify it's very quick and very easy and very straightforward. We know filling out forms is not one of your favorite things to do. If you are committed to taking action, we actually have a success library for you, which I am really excited to share. So there's a lot of our quarterly books. Who Not How is one of our quarterly books that's included in this. So a deeper conversation even than what we covered is included. You'll see the Team Success Handbook, which is a great way to have your team have an entrepreneurial attitude. How the Best Get Better 1 and 2, brilliant entrepreneurial template for how to be successful. Just a lot of rich wealth of resources to help you get started right away. And if you're an avid learner like I am, then this is food for your brain. And I should also stress that most of our knowledge products include not only the reading portion of it, but also audio. So if you like to learn by listening, lots of phenomenal content for you here. We also have a team success video series by yours truly, because one of the things that's most challenging as you're developing your self-managing and self-multiplying company is to really have your team get on board with you. It's one of the number one challenges that we hear about from our clients. So what we've done is put the book into a video format. So if coaching your team on having an entrepreneurial attitude is not in your skill set yet, then this is something you get as a part of joining Strategic Coach, and the value for that is $19.97. And what's great is it really simply allows you to facilitate the conversation without having to do the heavy lifting, and I guarantee you it will help your team have a much more entrepreneurial attitude and, again, support you in having your self-managing and self-multiplying company. And because if you're like me and like us, you just happen to love shopping at Amazon, we want to give you another thank you for taking action of a value of $250. And again, there are so many phenomenal learning resources and tools that can help us all be more successful. Why not partake in those as soon as possible? So the value of this entire package is $2,520, and that's the cash value. But I have to tell you, in terms of the learning, the wisdom, the leverage, it is much, much greater than that. So I certainly hope you take advantage and get all of the wins that are possible from that. Now, you still may have some questions. It wouldn't surprise me if you do. If you would like to have a deeper conversation about how this specifically applies to you, I'd love for you to call us at 1-800-387-3206 and speak with one of our membership advisors to have a strategic future conversation. What is yours about? Is Strategic Coach a right fit for you? You know, when can you get started? Which coach is a right fit? These are all conversations that our membership advisors are incredibly skilled in, and they can help you, again, figure out whether or not this is a right fit, and if we can be a part of your bigger future, or if you decide yes, then exactly when and where and with which coach. So again, please book that 15 to 20 minute conversation, incredibly valuable, and you'll leave with enormous clarity. So I hope you have gotten really, really excited about your entrepreneurial future and that we get to be a part of it. So I want to invite you to participate in Coach. At the very least, make that phone call and have that conversation. And I hope to see you at Strategic Coach soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.